Hey guys, in this video, I'm going to show you how I wired up a headlight switch, a taillight with turn signals, and a horn to my ETM RTR. There's no doubt that the ETM RTR is one of the hottest pit bikes on the market right now. With all the available options like the headlight kit, it comes with a 12 volt transformer, so it's easy to add other 12 volt accessories such as these rock lights. I'll go ahead and show you what you're going to need to do this. You'll want to get a 12 volt DC tail light. I went with this one because it had some turn signals built in. You're also going to want to get a high quality horn. I went with the Hella. And then you're going to need the control stalk. I went with this one because it came with the 2.8mm plugs on the end already. And I like the style of it. It was simple. Also need a 5-conductor cable, a 2-conductor cable, and a crimping kit for the 2.8mm connectors, and 2 spade connectors for the horn. And then here's all the stuff laid out on the workbench. So in the first part of the video, I'm going to show you how I wired everything up. In the second part of the video, I'll show you how I added the headlight switch to shut off the headlight individually. And that way you can add accessories like an Underglow kit that way also and shut it off individually. So first thing I'm going to do is disconnect the harness I built and then go over the tools you'll need to build it and what items you'll need. I'll put all the links in the description below. And I guess we'll start first is you're going to need some type of control. I got this one off Amazon. I'll put a link to it. This one was actually perfect. It has a control, turn on your lights, left and a right turn signal, and then a horn button. And what's cool about this one is it came pre-wired with a 2.8mm 2-pin and 6-pin plug on the end, which is an automotive standard plug. So in order to hook up this to everything else and make a harness that's quick connect, you can purchase all these ends. You really just need a 2 and a 6 pin, both the female and the male part. And then you're going to also want to use a crimper if you don't want to do it with a pair of pliers, if you want to do it nice and correctly. So I'll put this kit in the description below because you're going to want to get something like this. You're also, obviously, if you're going to do a horn, you're going to need a horn. I got the dual kit, but I'm just going to be using one, the higher number. You're going to want to get 2 6mm spade connectors, I think they are. And you can get a kit like this, which has 6.3mm spade connectors everywhere. And that will allow you to just hook up to the horn easily. And then you're going to need a tail light. I went with this tail light, which is the model YLF-2TL-60. And it accepts a voltage of 10 to 80 volts, but we're going to be feeding it 12 volts. It's got a 5-wire connection. It tells you right here, black wire is negative, yellow wire is the left turn signal, green is the right, white is the driving light, and then red is the braking light. And it strobes when you brake with this one. So I went ahead and I put a 6-pin connector here, and I'm using 5 of the pins, as you can see. It came with no connector on the end. This one came with the connector on the end. So what we need to do is we need to build the harness, which I built here with a fuse built in, and that's going to interface the tail light and everything. And also it's going to draw power from the RTR light kit because there's a transformer in the rear, and that converts the voltage from the 72 volts to 12. We're going to tap into that because they're using a 2-pin automotive plug, and we're going to go ahead and tap in with that. And as you can see, I put a fuse on this end, a little 3-amp fuse. I'll put a link to all these products below. And then you're going to need a 2-foot section of 5-conductor wire. This is 20 gauge, and it has the shielding on top. And then also you're going to need a short, about 12-inch section, 1-foot section of 2-conductor wire. And this is for the horn, if you're adding the horn. So on this end, you're going to draw the power into the harness. And this is also where you're going to plug in the tail light because it's going to pull back the signal through this wire and then activate the tail light. So here you want to double up one pin. I designated this top pin right here with the positive, and that's going to take power in from the transformer, send it down this line, and here on this other end where it connects to the front handlebar mount, I used the corresponding connectors and hooked up all the pins to what I needed to do. So we'll start with sending power to 3 areas. So this control, the yellow and the blue wire need to be energized with 12 volts. And also the horn, I'm sending the horn 12 volts through the pink wire. And what happens is the rest of the hookup goes to the horn here, and then I'm grounding the horn wire and also this wire to ground it back to the back area here. And what happens is when you hook up this to the horn switch, you hook up this, it's sending 12 volts over to the switch, and whenever you press the horn button, it's going to send the 12 volts and close the circuit up right here and connect these 2 wires basically. So this horn button down here basically connects these 2, and when these 2 connect, it sends the horn 12 volts from the transformer in the back. On to the other things. As I said, you needed to power up, energize this yellow and this blue wire on this harness, because the yellow wire and the black wire will close a circuit when you press on the light. And when that happens, I'm sending the 12 volts back through this white wire down here. So as you can see in this connection, the yellow wire is getting 12 volts from this jump section. There's actually 3 wires connected here, and then 1 jumps over here to add 12 volts to the blue wire for the turn signals. But right now we're working on this light switch. So here it gets 12 volts sent into this yellow wire. When you hit this light switch, it closes these 2 circuits here, the yellow and the black. So it sends the 12 volts over the black line, and then I have the white wire here hooked up to that pin. So it sends it down here, and back here, the white wire will trigger the white wire on this tail light, which turns on the tail light. So that's that. Then next, we have the corresponding left and right turn signals. If you go over here and you see the green wire sends it down to this green wire, and that triggers off the right turn signal. And then down here, there's a little red wire under the blue wire, and that will send it to the yellow wire on this harness in the middle on the bottom, and that yellow will trigger off the left turn signal. And that's about it. I mean, it's pretty simple once you have it all wired up with the correct harness. Basically, you're adding on a connector here with the corresponding wires to match up to the correct wires here. These are going to be similar colors. One of the pins isn't used, which is the red one for the brake light, because I don't have a brake light function. So I put that in a blank pin spot here, which isn't being used. I guess in the future, if I want to try to add a brake light function, I got to somehow tap and energize this every time the brake light is pressed. I can use a relay with a switch or something. So this you plug in here, and then these you plug in here. That way you could wire everything up with the harness and then plug everything in, and that makes it easier to wire up and fit through the frame and stuff. And it's as simple as hooking everything up like this once it's on the bike. I did design and 3D print this mount, which I will put on my Etsy shop if anyone wants to just pick up this mount and duplicate this setup, or even just use it to hold another type of brake light or whatever. I'll show you how this all mounts onto the bike, and then I'll go over a demonstration of it in action on the bike in a little bit. put some taillight action now. See if this horn works. Yep, very loud. And left. All right. Ready, I think.
If you've watched the video to this point and you guys aren't subscribed to my channel, please consider subscribing to my channel. And if you found this video useful at all, please hit that like button. And as always, thank you for watching.